for the establishment of friendship on a firmer and more lasting basis,
for the promotion of brotherly love
and kind feeling,
for the mutual benefit and advancement
of the interest of those with whom we sympathize
and deem worthy of our regard.
We have resolved to form a fraternity,
believing that thus we can most successfully accomplish our object. The third episode of the Theta Omicron Old Gold Pikecast. I'm your host, Dave Pittman, and I want to give a big thank you to my Black Sheep brothers for joining me by phone from across the country to record that preamble. I've known those guys for 36 or 37 years, and to me, they really embody what the preamble is all about. So I hope you enjoyed that. First off, I want to encourage all of you to join the fun. We have a great show tonight, and I want everybody to be tweeting along with us as we go along. You can use the hashtag ThetaOPikecast, and there are the handles for you to use. Theta O Pikes is the alumni, at ISU Pike is the actives, and I am at the social pit. You can also submit questions in your little webcam or webinar sidebar box there. Jason and I will be monitoring that. In the past episodes, we've had some heckling going on, so feel free to do that too. It's all good fun. And with that, I will now hand it over to Jason Hill, who is the president of the Theta O Alumni Association, for some important reminders. Jason?
First of all, thank you all for taking the time to join us. Each of these seems to be getting better, and so a huge thank you to David Pittman for pulling this all together. He really drives this from beginning to end, and a big public thank you to you, David, as well as to those who are dialing in. A couple of quick things. This is something we've been doing each year as a graduation reception to welcome those brothers who are graduating and becoming alumni. And so we couch this as a new alumni reception and include their families, and it becomes a really nice capstone for those actives as they transition to alumni status. So we'll be doing that after commencement on May 12th. And so if anybody would like to plans to be in Terre Haute that day and would be available to participate, we would love to have you. Secondly, I'm going to plug again, Super Homecoming. It's October 12th and 13th, coming up in the fall. Once every 5 years we do this, and this year is going to be Super Homecoming. So as we say, your best chance to see the most alumni is at Super Homecoming. If you need any help at all with lining up tours or where to stay, or maybe you want to get some brothers together at a restaurant and aren't sure how to do that, feel free to reach out to me, and we will connect you either with other guys in Terre Haute, or I can help. And we just want this to be a great experience. The one thing we really need is your participation. So if you can go ahead and get that on your calendars, that'll be awesome. And then as we transition to the next slide, email addresses. This is an ongoing challenge, but if you can take the time to make sure that we have your updated contact information, especially as we go into Super Homecoming, this is going to become more and more critical. Take the time to go to gotrees.org. That is a URL that the Alumni Association has purchased, and we keep that pointed toward the ISU Foundation's website so that you can update your contact information there, and then we regularly get extracts from them. So if you can go to gotrees.org, we're sending out monthly communications called the Garnet, and if you're not getting those in your inbox via email, we don't have your email address. So please take a second to update that. A couple of other really quick things. If you're involved in student affairs, or if you know of another brother who is at college or university in the area, would you please reach out and let me know? We've got several brothers who are involved in student affairs at various universities, and they would love to maybe form a little group, or at least know who else is in their similar field to see what opportunities and interests there are that exist. So if you're involved in student affairs, please reach out to me. And then a couple of other things. We've got some brothers who are organizing some running events in the area, and I wanted you to be aware of this, at least in the Midwest. One is Brother Gary Anderson is the race director for Run Through the Jungle. It's a 5K race coming up on May 19th in Terre Haute. And then in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Brother Brian Thomas he's done this every year and is a big runner, as you guys probably know. But he does the the Halupi 100 Relay, which is in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So if you're interested, or if you want to make a road trip and maybe get some guys together to go to a running event, those are a couple of really great opportunities.
All right, thanks, Jason. So next up, we have the Smythe Award. In the world of Pi Kappa Alpha, it's our Stanley Cup or Lombardi Trophy. The Smythe Award recognizes the top 10% of all 220 plus Pike chapters across North America. Every year, Theta O sets winning the Smythe as its goal, and they've done a pretty darn good job of it, winning 27 total and 9 in a row. But what does it take to be recognized as a Smythe-worthy chapter? We're honored tonight to have as our very special guest, Danny Ryan, who is the Education Officer for the International Fraternity. And he's the guy who oversees the International Awards program. So Danny, welcome to the Pikecast.
Pleasure to be here, gentlemen.
Let's start by saying when the next Smythe Awards will be handed out.
So the presentation of the 2018 Smythe Awards will be on Saturday, July 28th, during that evening's banquet at the upcoming 150th Anniversary International Convention in Richmond, Virginia. So shameless plug here, I would highly encourage everyone to join us in Richmond, if they're able, to experience this once in a 150-year event. But for those who cannot make it, we will also be doing live streaming of the Smythe ceremony that night.
I think maybe you should fly me down there and I could do a live Pikecast from there. What do you think? Anyway, back in the day, I had the pleasure, I'll say, of working on the award application with Mr. Ed Pease looking closely over my shoulder. It was pretty intense back then, and I'm sure it's even more involved now. So can you tell us, Danny, about some of the criteria for the awards?
Well, you're absolutely right, David. The year-end summary and international awards application, as I'm sure between Grant and Jarrett can attest, is a huge undertaking by every chapter that takes many months and a great deal of documentation, as you can see by even the smallest application being hundreds of pages in length. Now, once all this documentation is submitted by each chapter, the fraternity staff then pores over all of this information to distill a chapter performance score for each chapter, and then the award selection process is handled by a select secret group of volunteers on the International Awards Committee. Now, this committee identifies award winners for multiple different recognitions and awards, but the most notable awards are the Raymond L. Oriens Excellence Awards, which go to the top 25% of chapters, and the even more prestigious, as you mentioned, Robert Adger Smythe Awards, which goes to the top 10% of chapters within Pi Kappa Alpha.
That's cool. With so many awesome chapters across well, it's North America. It used to be just the country when I was in, but now it's North America. How do you select the best of the best?
Well, that's a great question, David. But before I answer that, I'll give a little more detail about the Smythe Award itself. It was named after the most impactful junior founder in our fraternity's history, as I think most people know. But the Smythe Award, since its inception, has been the top award a chapter can earn. When it was first awarded in 1930, it only went to one entire chapter in the fraternity until 1970, when the award was finally given out to multiple chapters. Then in 1980, since there were so many excellent chapters, there were garnet and gold divisions that were added, which tiered chapters based on number of fraternities on campus. So that kind of laid the groundwork then for the new divisions that were then added in 2006, so more recent, based on the number of consecutive Smythes, since chapters like Theta O make being excellent such a culture within the chapter. And I would be remiss if I did not at least mention what being excellent as a chapter today means. So just to be an Oriens chapter, the top 25% of Pike chapters today, it takes a whole heck of a lot of work, and it takes even more time and dedication to be an elite Smythe chapter. As you can see by the numbers on the screen. That's why we recognize the top 25% of chapters with the Orions Award, and not just the top 10% of chapters with the Smythe Award. Just terrific work all around.
It truly is outstanding. So with all of this in play, can you tell us about what are the longest current streak of winnings, and what, most importantly, is Theta Omicron's longest streak?
Absolutely. So actually, Theta O, as most of you know, is no stranger to notable Smythe records, since Theta O not only competes with the longest streak given the 17-year run of winning Smythes from 81 to 97, but I think even more importantly, Theta O claims the most Smythe awards of any Pike chapter. And as was mentioned before, the chapter has another streak of Smythes active, and based on the divisions we currently have for Smythes, Theta O is a dynasty level Smythe winner currently.
Dynasty level. That's pretty awesome. So congratulations to the current actives who are keeping that streak going, and to everybody who has gone before. You certainly wouldn't be, we wouldn't be the top most award-winning Smythe chapter in history without everyone's participation. So thank you to everyone. Now, chapters don't just become Smythe winners. They have to be molded and shaped in the mold of excellence. So Danny, how do you recognize chapter advisors?
It's a great question, David, because not only are there a number of undergraduate awards, as I mentioned, but there are also numerous volunteer awards. Volunteers serving in an alumni advisory board, a house corporation, or an alumni association receive recognitions of service on notable milestones starting after 5 years of service. And then, akin to the Smythe Awards for chapters, there are awards recognizing the different alumni associations. So there are awards for young alumni as well, recognizing accomplishment for Pike service, service to community, and professional recognition as well. There are also awards recognizing advisory boards of the year, and the most coveted volunteer award that goes to the one man who has the greatest impact on a chapter each year, the Chapter Advisor of the Year award. Again, Theta O deserves recognition here because of the tireless work by none other than Chapter Advisor David Stowe, who won this Chapter Advisor of the Year recognition in 2016.
Congrats to Dave on a much deserved honor. I know that man bleeds garnet and gold, and he has for many, many years. We all wish him and Theta O chapter good luck this year in the upcoming application and selection process. And Danny, thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it, David.
And good luck. I know you are off to a big tournament. Do you care to, or maybe it's not a tournament, do you care to share with the guys what you're doing tonight?
Trying to keep that A and slag going with a little kickball, co-ed kickball tonight. So we'll see how we do.
Excellent. Well, good luck to you, and we wish you well. I know you've got to run, so thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
All right. Now, we just heard about the importance of having a well-rounded chapter. In the first Pikecast, Al Perone talked about Theta O's academic excellence and how the overall chapter GPA is well over 3.0. In the last episode, we heard about a group of actives who spent part of their winter break on a community service trip to clean up an area of the Florida Keys that was hit pretty hard by a hurricane. Later tonight, we'll learn about another great community service project. But now, let's talk about athletics. And joining us tonight to do that is Grant Kinnick, who is the chapter's intramural chairman. Welcome, Grant.
All right, thanks for having me.
With the school year coming to a close, how are we looking this year for intramural championships?
So for points, we've been in the lead all year, like 17 through 18, both semesters. It is very close. We're leading with 1,374 points, and second place is SIGEP with 1,341. So it's neck and neck, but with how we're doing right now, it's looking like we're going to pull it out.
Excellent. So how much longer? Just probably a week or so?
Goes until the end of April, I believe.
Okay.
We've got 2 more co-ed sports that are one-day tournaments, but softball and handball are currently going on, and they probably end, regular season ends in a week or 2, and then playoffs start.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about here some of the current sports.
Yeah, so softball and handball. We have 2 teams for handball, which are gold and garnet, and then we have the 3 teams for softball, 1 co-ed, 1 gold, which is our main team, and then the garnet team. And gold is 1-1 currently. The garnet team plays tomorrow night. They're currently 0-1, so hopefully they'll get that win tomorrow. And then our co-ed team is currently 1-1. And then on handball, both teams are undefeated. They're both 2-0 currently, and gold and garnet both play tomorrow night. And gold will be 3-0 automatically almost because the team we play does not have a team. So it's an automatic 5-0 win.
Excellent.
So they're going to be 3-0.
Very good. All right. Congratulations to all the guys who have participated throughout the year and are helping to bring home the championship. So good luck in closing it out.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Next up, we have Jarrett Paz, who is here to talk with us a little bit about some of the community service. And that's always been an important thing from Donaghy Day to Dance Marathon. Theta O Pikes have had a long history of serving the community. And over the past few years, brothers have expanded their reach across the country. Jarrett, who is a sophomore and a member of the Delta Xi class, is here to tell us about some of the guys who spent their spring break on a community service trip. So Jarrett, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So we just have a couple of photos here, or a few photos. Tell us a little bit about what the project was and what you guys did.
So this past, I believe it was winter or spring break-ish, around that time. We had the opportunity to go down to Nashville, Tennessee. We did not plan on doing this Special Olympics basketball tournament to begin with. It was not on our radar whatsoever. But all of a sudden, I was in chapter. I was given a report for exec on Wednesdays, and the question was asked, why don't you see if any alumni are down there that might have something for you to do? And so, I thought about it. I talked to Ed Pease, of course, and he gave me 2 names. He said Tim Wiseman and John Stevenson. And then not even 24 hours later, I got an email from Tim Wiseman. And it was kind of crazy. And it literally said, "Hey, Jarrett, heard you want to do a service trip. My friend John Stevenson, he does this Special Olympics basketball tournament every year in Nashville." And instantly I thought, that's a great idea, because we just got done with Polar Plunge Special Olympics, and we were actually paired with ASA, the sorority here on campus, and their philanthropy event was also Special Olympics. And Polar Plunge was a huge success. It was a lot of fun. We helped set up. We had a great showing out there. And so it just fit right in, the whole Special Olympics, going out service and all that. So now we have the idea, but now we just need to get guys to go. And I wasn't sure how the guys would go over about it, taking a weekend and just going to Nashville to help out. People don't, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Saturday, okay? Especially in college. And so Sunday night came around, I'm at chapter, and I asked, by a show of hands, how many people would want to go out and, maybe do this? I told them all about it, Special Olympics basketball tournament. I don't really know what it entails, so I don't really know what we're going to be doing. And the number of guys, it was more than 20 guys, okay? Wow. And it was, I didn't really expect that. And instantly I emailed Tim back and I said, hey, we're going to have probably close to 20 guys that want to go. And not even 5 minutes later, he said, perfect. And it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So, all right, now we're going. It's planned. The guys are going. They're excited. That Friday comes. We get done with class. We're headed down to Nashville. We're taking 3 to 4 cars, packed full, 5 guys in each car, okay? So we get down there. It's late at night. We're in Nashville, so there's a little bit of time change, nothing crazy. We get there. Tim's he's happy to have us. He couldn't be happier. So we stay the night there, sleep, and then Saturday morning comes around. It comes fairly early. It's around 7 a.m. We go. It was the high school that the basketball tournament was at. It was called Innsworth High School, and just a fun Pike alumni fact. It's where Tim McGraw's daughters go to high school, went to high school. So I thought that was pretty cool. In all the pictures that I posted on social media, I tagged Tim McGraw, hoping he would like it or something, But so going into like what we actually did. So the picture on the left, if you're looking at your computer, that is a group those are my best friends right there in Pike, okay? And this little guy, he came up to us and he goes, oh, or his mom and dad asked him like, oh, do you guys go here? And we were like, oh no, we're from Indiana. We just came up here just to help out. And just the look on her face when we told her that, it was, words can't really put it in, I can't really put that in perspective. She was just overwhelmed because we were from Indiana. We're in Nashville, Tennessee just to help out. And her son actually came up to us also and asked if he could take a picture with us. And of course, we were thrilled. And so that was a special moment. I definitely won't forget that for a while. And then the picture on the right, so the whole big message for this basketball tournament was I pledge. And I don't know if you can't really see it, but on the corners it says R word with a cross through it. And sometimes we say stuff in public and we don't really think about it. It kind of just comes out. It's like our everyday language. We don't think anything of it sometimes. And we don't realize who could be around us. Maybe they aren't affected by some disability or whatever it may be, but maybe it's their sister, maybe it's their cousin. You don't really know the struggles someone else is going through just by seeing them. And so that was the whole idea. Oh God. And then going on to these other pictures, one of probably the hardest working brother that was there at that event was Casey Phillips. He on the way down there, he was bragging about how he just got certified to be a basketball referee for intramurals and all that. And instantly when we got there, they came up to us and one of their refs and announcers, like something happened and they couldn't make it. And we heard that and everybody instantly, Casey, he didn't even have to volunteer. He was being told what to do. Okay. And so he took over, he manned up and he didn't complain. He didn't do anything. He was all for it. It was a lot of fun to see him out there. He's also a freshman. So it was good to see the young guys. And then, so this last picture, those were all volunteer workers, okay? And once again, you see the sign, I pledge. And every time one of those volunteer workers would come up to us and ask us, oh, you're in Pike. Why are you in Nashville? You're not from Indiana. You're not from Tennessee, are you? And we tell them, no, we're from Indiana. And every time a different person would come up and ask us, why are you even here? Like, why are you in Nashville, Tennessee, if you're from Indiana State University? Why would you make this drive? And it was the same answer every time. We are lucky enough to have alumni in Nashville, Tennessee that are willing to house almost 20 guys, which that's a lot of bodies. That's a lot of men who eat a lot of food. Yeah. And so that doesn't happen. And they were just overwhelmed. We got invited back next year, so I guess we were doing something right.
Well, it's an awesome work, awesome project, and congratulations, Jarrett. Thank you for coming on and sharing that story with us. I hope you guys have a ton of fun next year. And
definitely.
Huge special thanks to Tim and John for continuing to show what being a Pike man means throughout your life. So thank you.
Thank you.
When I attended ISU in the early 80s, getting to class was like playing a game of Frogger. And that's kind of interesting because that's about the same time that Frogger became a game. So it's been around that long. We had to dodge and cross busy Chestnut Street just to get anywhere on campus. Really, you had to dodge traffic on heavily trafficked streets. But things are quite a bit different now, with no streets at all running through campus and these beautiful new and renovated buildings everywhere. Few people know more about how the transformation has happened than Greg Good. The 1995 grad and Alpha Pi class member is now ISU's Executive Director of Government Relations, and he recently took the reins as president of the Theta O Housing Corp. So, Greg, welcome to the Pikecast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Can you start by telling us how much investment has the state legislature made in ISU over the past 10 years or so?
Well, looking at funding for capital projects or construction projects, we in the university administration look at it in two ways. Those projects that the state funds or the taxpayers fund in total, and then ways where the university can leverage other resources and philanthropic support for other university improvements. So if you take a look at the state-funded projects where the state only has been able to get behind these types of projects, it comes to a pretty impressive number, $164 million over the last 10 years. And then if you look at other projects that the university has invested in, particularly things like the student recreation center, student housing improvements in the 4 towers on campus, as well as a downtown student housing project, athletic facilities like the track and field project that recently opened near the Wabash River, as well as the ISU Foundation office and the Barnes and Noble bookstore and coffee shop, that also comes to around another $100 million. So in total, just over $265 million in total investment in the Indiana State University campus over the last decade.
That's pretty incredible. And we have a couple of photos up here, and that by College of Education. So I was an education major and went to a lot of classes in the old Statesman Towers, which are, of course, no longer there. And now they have this. That's pretty phenomenal.
Sure. I think a lot of our brothers will remember either climbing stairs or waiting for an old rickety elevator if you were in the College of Education or the College of Business. 2 towers that were originally intended to serve as residence halls. And during the height of the Vietnam War, enrollment soared at Indiana State. And lo and behold, when the United States withdrew from that region of the world and the draft ended, the desire to go to college seemed to not be as high. And the university faced really an enrollment crisis at that time in the mid 1970s. And so what to do with these 2 towers? They were converted into academic spaces, and they were not conducive really to learning, and very difficult for those individuals who had to take classes there. And moreover, the state measures the total assignable square footage per full-time student. And those towers, along with the fact that enrollment was not as high as we enjoy today, was really making us look pretty bad in the eyes of the state. So it was determined that we were going to relocate those colleges, and we were able to convince the legislature to invest about $27 million in University Hall, which was the home of the former lab school. That we thought would be really an appropriate place for our College of Education to reside. And then in the meantime, people like Congressman Ed Pease, along with U.S. Senators Evan Bayh and Richard Lugar, helped facilitate the transfer of the old federal building located on the intersection of Cherry and 7th Streets to transfer the ownership of that building from the federal government to Indiana State University, as the federal courts and the Postal Service wanted to find new locations for their operations. And so we received ownership of that building, along with about an $8 million federal appropriation, and then we were able to secure another approximately $10 million from the state of Indiana, and it is really a magnificent home for the Scott College of Business.
And these two buildings here, I want to have you back on another episode later, Greg, and talk more specifically about some of these new facilities. But just looking at them is phenomenal. Can you tell us about some of the effects that maybe the university has seen just from all these investments in these buildings?
Sure. I'll first quickly point out, since you've got these pictures here, the picture on our the audience's left here is from the dome of Normal Hall, which for most of us who attended Indiana State, we wouldn't even really recognize that building because the building was closed for the most part, and it was a storage facility. But for those individuals who attended Indiana State prior to the early 70s, that was the old library. We received about $16 million from the state to convert that to a Center for Student Success. So all things relating to counseling and academic advising are now tutoring. Those activities and services take place right in the center of the campus. And in the meantime, we were able to secure $1 million gift from Gail Cook to restore the dome of that magnificent building. So it actually reminds me almost of a mini state house. It's so grand and beautiful and architecturally significant. And then on the right, something that all of us, we've all spent time in that building, although it certainly didn't look like how it does now. That's the old arena. That's what we remember that. Maybe some of us cheering on Dave Stowe as he's bench pressing 300 pounds in the dungeon, right? And playing basketball in the old arena. And then it also served as the home for our athletic department. Well, much of the enrollment growth that Indiana State has enjoyed over the last 10 years a big part of that has been in the various health-related fields, the various therapies, physical therapy and occupational therapy, a robust physician assistant program, nurse practitioner program. These are all academic programs that really lead to immediate job placement for our graduates. And so we use that argument to make the case for what has been the biggest gift from the state of Indiana, $64 million to renovate the arena and to build a significant addition. And so now all of those academic programs that were previously scattered across the campus are under one roof. So we're real proud of that. So, these are the types of projects where the money has gone. And in answering your question about the effects, really, it comes down to the fact that really facilities matter. The expectations of college life, whether it's student services or academic services or the facilities that make up our learning environment, the expectations are really high. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as we have been very intentional in our master planning and growing this campus with some success from the state in securing dollars for facilities and improving the actual physical campus, that the place is very inviting to the students, and parents can walk this campus and feel like their sons and daughters are going to be safe, that they're going to be successful, that they're going to learn, and that they're going to really enjoy these precious years of their lives. Technology is so important, and many of these buildings that where we were able to secure support were not anywhere close to being a 21st century learning environment. As a matter of fact, much of the mechanical systems and the electrical systems had to be significantly updated and then enhanced so as to be able to support the types of learning environments and the technology associated with them that will help make our students competitive in this 21st century. It's just been so important from a safety standpoint. I think your Frogger analogy was absolutely appropriate and spot on. It was not uncommon for trucks and vehicles to come barreling through campus, and students trying to avoid that. from an aesthetic standpoint, the campus was really pretty ugly. And we made a real significant hire back in the mid-1980s when we hired a landscape architect named Kevin Runyon, who's still with us today. And Kevin was instrumental during those Landini years to begin closing those streets. And he began planting trees everywhere and landscaping. And today those trees are mature, and it's almost like a park-like setting that is just so beautiful and inviting for people who want to study and want to work and want to participate in university life.
And the campus has been named Tree Campus, I believe, or something like that, right?
Yeah, for now, actually, several years in a row, we've won actually a couple of awards and acknowledgments, one being one of our nation's most beautiful campuses, which, again, for those of us who remember in the 70s and the 80s and early 90s, this campus was anything but beautiful. And as well as the Tree Campus by the I believe it was the Arbor Society that acknowledges different municipalities and organizations and campuses who are dedicated to conservation and environmental sustainability. And part of that is just planting trees and creating campus environments that help foster that type of appreciation and outlook.
Well, Greg, I thank you very much. I look forward to having you back on a future episode when we can talk more about the strategic plan and some of the changes that are coming up with Holman Center. That's going to be a big renovation also. And also, I just want to thank you very much for keeping ISU in front of our legislators and to help procure the funds that drive this university forward.
Well, I've got one of the best jobs in the world. I get to advocate for my alma mater, and no question about it, what I learned from Pi Kappa Alpha really has made a tremendous impact in my life personally and professionally. So great to be with you.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And with that, now it's time to go into our Alumni Brothers of the Month. In Indiana, there's no bigger month than May, and in May, there's no bigger place to be than Speedway. And it just so happens that Theta O Pikes are running Speedway year-round. So Jason is back to tell us about some of the Pikes who are running Speedway.
Thank you, David. And I'm going to highlight two brothers who are serving in the Speedway community right now. And I will caveat this at the beginning to say that in the brief time that I'm going to be talking, I won't even begin to do justice to all that these guys are doing in the community. The first person is Jeff Matthews. He is a member of the Alpha Rho class that was initiated in the fall of 1991. Professionally, he's really got two jobs. One is he's the managing director of Tom Burns Racing, which is a newly formed Verizon IndyCar team that will be competing in this year's 102nd running of the Indianapolis 500. The responsibilities that he has as a part of Tom Burns Racing as the managing director: sponsorship procurement, contract negotiations, hospitality coordination, hiring personnel, assignments for those personnel, managing the brand of Tom Burns Racing, logistics, public relations. He wears a lot of hats for them. It's something that he's critical to the success of that team, and those who are around IndyCar racing are familiar with Jeff and his work. He has actually been involved in IndyCar racing since the spring of 1998. Those of us who knew him as an active at Indiana State know the passion that he had for racing. He began as a volunteer for one of the race teams, and in that volunteer role has kind of grown that into what he does now, which is as serving as that managing director. The second role that he fills in Speedway, and this is amazing as well, he is the town council president for the city of Speedway. He began serving as a member of the Speedway Parks and Rec Board, and from there took different roles within the town council, and then has been elected as the president of the Speedway Town Council. So between his role with Tom Burns Racing and serving on the student council as the president of the student council of Speedway, he wears a lot of important hats there for the city. He also has a 15-year-old daughter, Rachel, who is a sophomore at Speedway High School. And I'll share that he intersects with the next person we're going to be highlighting from Speedway, Ken Hall, in that as Jeff was in a meeting for Speedway, Ken walks up, gives him the challenge, and they were able to connect then as Theta Pikes. And I'll share one of the quotes that Ken gave us completely unsolicited in his role in interacting with Jeff. And he said, to a very real degree, and so this is Ken Hall talking about Jeff Matthews, to a very real degree, Jeff may be the person who reminds me the most of Ed Pease. He's confident and principled while quiet and dedicated to the city of Speedway. And I just thought that was a great quote that would resonate with so many of us who know Ed and the legacy he has created and the role that Jeff has filled. So very proud of Jeff and all that he's doing. The second person in Speedway that we wanted to talk about was Ken Hall. And Ken, he is a member of the Beta class. He was initiated in 1979. He actually was the person who initiated David Pittman, our host for the Pikecast. Ken received his elementary education degree from Indiana State and also received advanced degrees from Ball State as well as IU. Professionally, Ken serves as the superintendent of Speedway schools, and he has filled that role since 2007. He has served in a variety of school districts prior to being the superintendent of Speedway. He was in Western Boone, Pike Township, Noblesville, Lebanon. So he has served in a variety of teaching and administrative roles, but has been the superintendent of Speedway schools for a number of years now. Another interesting thing about Ken Hall, he is the proud father of a legacy Theta Pike, Kenneth Michael Hall, who was initiated in the fall of 2006. And so Ken had the opportunity to be at the initiation of his son whenever he became initiated. Ken's wife and children are all Sycamores. He has a daughter who is a teacher, and also has two grandchildren, ages 5 and 3. And so those are two of our Theta Omicron alumni who are serving the Speedway community, and we are very proud of them. As I say, they have done much more than what I have the time to present, but we wanted to share all that they're doing as we enter race season coming up in the month of May. To transition to our military brother of the month, I wanted to recognize Jake Byers. So many of us know Jake and the legacy he left at Theta Omicron as he embraced being the recruitment chair and all of the work that he did there. Well, after Theta Omicron, he is now serving in the United States Air Force. He is at the rank of first lieutenant, and he serves as a nuclear missile launch officer and intercontinental ballistic missile combat crew commander. So a gigantic responsibility. He is in one of the Dakotas, I believe. So he is serving a very important role for our nation, and we are thankful for him and honor him and are grateful for that. Then transitioning to another item that Brandon has been chasing for us on the next slide, the Family Tree Project. And this is an enormous undertaking, and I'm so grateful for Brandon for taking this on. He would love to be able to create a family tree for Theta Omicron. And so to be able to do that, he would like 4 pieces of information: your pledge class or associate class, your big brother's name, your little brother's name, and then he'd also like to know if you've ever served in the military. And so if you haven't yet reached out to Brandon, either via Facebook or email, would you please take a second, maybe do it right now while you're at your computer, and send a note. Brandon's email is there at the bottom. Just answer as many of those 4 questions as you know. If you're not sure of the pledge class, just want to put what year you think you initiated. Don't remember any of those pieces of information. Don't let that prevent you from reaching out to him. This is something that's really valuable to us as a chapter, and we're so grateful for him for doing it. David, I think that's it. Thank you.
Very good job. Thank you, Jason. So in the last podcast, we talked with Terry Cunningham, the chapter's first SMC, and we thought it would be interesting to look at how the chapter has evolved through the years. So tonight we're going to jump forward 10 years from when Terry led the chapter and talk with Darren Smith, who was in the Sigma class and served as SMC in his senior year of 1988. First, After graduating, Darren started his career at Ameritech/Indiana Bell as a COBOL programmer. But after about 10 years there, he moved to Colorado Springs to do a project consulting for a variety of telco companies. He also owned a sign company and had a 5-year stint as a senior project manager with Arapahoe County. Eventually, he moved back to Indiana to be closer to his family. And now he's the portfolio director for the West region of Anthem, which consists of 8 states. He lives in Zionsville presently, and he has 1 son and 2 stepsons. Darren, welcome to Pikecast.
Welcome. Thank you.
So I love these photos. Some old ones from back in the day and a more recent one from your Men Who Cook episode. But before we get into that, tell us about your job now, and besides at Anthem, what else is keeping you busy?
Well, as a portfolio director, I work with sales and IT to make sure they're both on the same track, and have the West region, which is California, Colorado, Nevada, and then the central states of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Missouri, and Wisconsin. So they keep me busy. I do a lot of escalation problems, working with customers and our sales team to make sure that we get the good service out there.
Good job. That's quite a region.
On top of that, on outside of work, I chase kids and taxi kids around, and I do as much volunteering as I can. As you can see, I did an event called 100 Men Who Cook here in Indianapolis for one of the bank, Old National Bank, who sponsors it, and all the funding goes to a local nonprofit. This year, I think they raised around $26,000 throughout I think it was more than that, but during the evening event, it was $26,000. I think overall it was $200 and some $1,000. So fun event. And I'm also on the state board for the American Lung Association, and we host a number of events around Indianapolis and around the state. One being the Fight for Air climb that do a stair climb up the tallest tower in Indianapolis or in Indiana with the Salesforce Tower. And then we do a lot of public awareness around lung disease and clean air.
All right.
Other than that, I play some volleyball and try to keep myself in as good a shape as possible.
Well, you're looking good.
Thanks.
What's your specialty there? What did you cook?
Oh, it's a little appetizer. It's like a little cheesy sausage on cocktail bread. And so, well, had a good time.
Okay. Well, Jason, take note. I think you need to organize a get together, and we can have Darren cook for us.
Now, I don't know, but Chris Davies seems to raise a lot of money when he does 100 Men Who Cook in Terre Haute. So I don't know if I want to go head to head with him.
We can have a cook-off then. Well, let's crank up the Wayback Machine. We've got some old photos here. Who are some of the influential people that encouraged you to join Pike?
John Templin was one of the early influential guys. I was born and raised in Washington, Indiana, until 7th grade. So John was from Washington Catholic. So I knew him and his family from when we lived there. And then Dan Tingle was another one during the rush process that just made an impression on all the information, all the leadership that he was involved in. And then, of course, you have Ed Pease. I think everybody has him as an influential. If he puts his mind that he's going to get you, he's going to get you.
Yeah.
So it was those are probably the 3 influential people.
And when we talked with Terry last time, we talked a little bit about some of the other fraternities and sororities that were on campus at that time. So who were the top ones in your day?
I would say probably for the fraternities, ATO, Sigma Chi, and Lambda Chi were probably the 3 big ones that we competed very tightly with. And then sororities, you had AO Pi's, Chi Omegas, Alpha Chi's, and Zetas and I think they're all probably still pretty big, but those were probably the big fraternities and sororities on campus.
Okay. We talked in the first episode about how the social life of a fraternity man has changed in recent years. So what were some of the events that the Pikes did when you were leading the charge?
Well, one of our big fundraisers was Winter Jam. It was a great party, had air band contest, campus organizations could put in their band, And that was always a huge event, and lots of people always looked forward to that. Other than that, the Pike Formal was always a large social that everyone wanted to attend. Lots of sororities wanted to be there and have their presence. Hay rides, and then just our parties at St. Joseph's were probably the big social events that went on in campus.
Yeah, I remember those days at St. Joe's. Since the Pikes didn't have a house yet, where did most of the guys live, and where did you have chapter meetings?
Most of the guys lived in Burford Hall. We had, I think it was the 6th floor of Burford Hall, and we had a chapter room built out there, and then we had a large number of people that lived down in Lincoln Quad and a number of suites. And then our chapters were over in the old education tower down in the basement. I think it was 101 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but.
Yep, there's a dungeon down there too. So you obviously were watching Greg talk a few minutes ago and saw those gorgeous buildings. What do you remember most about the campus?
It was a concrete campus. As sort of said, you would play Frogger trying to get it across Cherry. I think it was 6th Street. I don't remember what the street numbers were, but just to try to get to campus or to classes, you had to dodge cars and so that's probably the big one. The other thing I would say is, just around campus, not necessarily on campus, but we had a fraternity row that, even though we were in Burford Hall, sort of always looked down there to say, what if, we could have a house? What if would we do it differently? Would we? And the fraternity houses back then were just really old homes that were overran and just not very well taken care of. Yep. And then all the sororities were down in Lincoln Quad instead of in their current, I don't know what they call that, the suites that they're in now. So if you wanted a sorority or be close to sororities, everybody wanted to be in Lincoln Quad. So that's where all the women were at.
Yeah. All right. So when was the last time you visited ISU?
It was 2016. It was there for homecoming a couple of years ago. It was a mud fest, I think, at that time, but it was a fun time to see everyone that was able to make it there. And hopefully, I'm planning to be there for Super Homecoming, and hopefully, we'll see a lot more alumni there as well.
Excellent. I was going to ask, so you answered already. We hope to see you at Super Homecoming. So, Darren, thank you very much for joining us and telling us a bit about what you've been up to.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So with that, in closing, I just want to remind everyone to make your plans now for Super Homecoming. It only happens once every 5 years, as Jason said, and this year we are celebrating the chapter's 40th anniversary. So that weekend is October 12th and 13th. Thank you very much for watching. When it closes, you will get a short survey. Please answer that. It'll help us guide the direction for future Pikecasts. And with that, blah, blah.